Let's continue our discussion of chapter 3. Now we will continue the next topic, fundamental duties. So the original constitution did not provide for the fundamental duties of the citizens. These were added during the operation of the internal emergency 1975 to 77 by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act. So this is important. This internal emergency was proclaimed by the Indira Gandhi government in 1975, and you should know the section by which they can proclaim it. It's 352. So state emergency is 356, national emergency, that is internal, is 352, and 360 is the financial emergency. So this was done on the recommendation of Swaran Singh Committee. Remember this name also. The 86th Constitutional Amendment Act of 2002 added one more fundamental duty, which is the responsibility on the parents to teach their children. So just remember this 86th Constitutional Amendment also. Now this part 4A of the Constitution, which consists of only one article, 51A, specifies the 11 fundamental duties. That is, before that, let me tell you that this part 4A, this is very important because many times they ask what is part 4A, whether it's DPSP or fundamental duties. So it's fundamental duties. Part 4 is DPSP. And then article 51A, this article 51 will be different from 51A. 51 is basically promoting internal peace and security and all those things, but article 51A is actually fundamental duties. So there are all in all total 11 right now. Earlier there were 10, and by 86th Constitutional Amendment Act one more was added. So let's see what these are. To respect the Constitution, national flag and national anthem, to protect the sovereignty, unity and integrity of the country, to promote the spirit of common brotherhood amongst all of the people, to preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture, and so on. So they have given some fundamental duties. We'll read them in detail later. The fundamental duties serve as a reminder to citizens that while enjoying their rights, they also have to be quite conscious of duties they owe to their country, their society and to their fellow citizens. However, like the directive principles, the duties are also non-justiciable in nature. So this is just a moral obligation on the citizens to follow these particular duty so that they can show their love for their country, their society and their fellow citizens, and they are non-justiciable, means they cannot be implemented by court. Next topic is a secular state. This is also one of the most fundamental features of our constitution. Now, how we are guaranteeing the secular state? Let's see. The Constitution of India stands for a secular state. Hence, it does not uphold any particular religion as the official religion of the Indian state. The following provisions of the Constitution reveal the secular character of Indian state. First, the term secular was added to the preamble of the Constitution by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976. So before this particular amendment, the secular was not in the preamble, but now it is part of the preamble. Then second, the preamble secures to all citizens of India liberty of belief, faith and worship. Obviously, anyone is free to believe in any god, have any faith and worship any god. So all these things are already secured in the preamble itself. The state shall not deny to any person equality before the law or equal protection of the law. So we have this particular equality before the law and equal protection of the law. What is the difference between that? Basically, equality before the law means that no matter what is your position or your hierarchy is, you will be treated similarly, and equal protection of the laws means it's more about equity, that those who are weaker or those who are disadvantageous, they will be given equal protection with respect to those who are strong. Then the state shall not discriminate against any citizen on the ground of religion. This is contained in Article 15. Then equality of opportunity of all citizens in the matters of public employment, that is contained in Article 16. So reservations and all, they are special provisions, they are enabling provisions just to secure employment to those particular sections who are not properly represented, and they were historically very poor and very marginalized, so that's why reservations are given. Otherwise, equality of opportunity is there for all citizens. Then all persons are equally entitled to freedom of conscience. Conscience means whatever your thought process is, and the right to freely profess, practice, and propagate any religion. So all persons, they are free to propagate their religion, but they cannot force their religion. They just can tell the basic dictums of their religion, and others, if they want to join their religion, they can join. But forceful propagation, or means by using uh, greed and all those things, that is not allowed. Then every religious denomination or any of its sections shall have the right to manage its religious affairs. So even the religious denomination, whatever the religions are, they can celebrate their religious festivals. They can perform their rituals and all those things, unless it's not detrimental to the public interest. Then no person shall be compelled to pay any taxes for the promotion of a particular religion. So on the basis of religion, our government cannot take any taxes. No religious instruction shall be provided in any educational institution maintained by the state. So state should impart neutral education. It should not be religious. Any section of the citizens shall have the right to conserve its distinct language, script, or culture. Article 29. So, all sections, they can have their own institutions. They can preserve their language, their script, their culture by um, opening an institute just for that particular specific cause. Then all minorities shall have the right to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice. So here it's giving the protection of language, script, or culture, but here it's a special provision. Although they both can be clubbed together, but then they have specifically told that the minorities have the right to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice. So these particular educational institutions will be given the minority tag, and they will have some special provisions, means they will be mostly for the welfare of those particular minority communities. Then the state shall endeavor to secure for all the citizens a uniform civil code. This is article 44. So this is DPSP, and it's not enforceable in the court of law. However, all these are the fundamental rights of all the citizens. So you can see that most of the things which are providing for a secular state, they are the fundamental rights of the citizens, and they cannot be taken away. As well as even these particular features which are the part of the preamble, they have been declared as basic feature by the Keshwanand Bharati verdict of Supreme Court, and they cannot also be taken away. So India is a secular state, and it will be a secular state unless our constitution is itself abrogated. Here this is one of the most important concepts that they have told here, that is, what is the difference between Indian secularism and the Western concept of secularism. So the Western concept of secularism connotes a complete separation between the religion, the church, and the state, the politics. So mostly the religion in West is church, because mostly they are Christians. So there is a complete separation. The state, or means the government, does not interfere in the matters of religion, and the religion is not interfering in the matters of the state. So they both are totally separate. This negative concept of secularism is inapplicable in Indian situation where the society is multi-religious. Here we have so many religions, and this cannot be applicable, because uh, the state cannot just have a policy of total non-interference, because different religions may fight among each other, and all those things are there. There could be many wrong things that are there in different religions. So Indian state has a duty to protect or to abolish those particular rituals or those particular things which are detrimental to the public interest. Say for example, here you can quote this Sabrimala verdict that is going on right now, which is relating to the entry of women in a particular temple. So hence the Indian constitution embodies the positive concept of secularism, that is giving equal respect to all religions or protecting all religions equally. So this is the basic difference between Western and our secularism. Moreover, the constitution has also abolished the old system of communal representation, that is reservation of seats in the legislature on the basis of religion. So you know that this particular communal representation, who started it? It was started by Parliamentary reforms in 1909, and then Muslims got this communal representation rights. Then it was extended further in 1919 to Sikhs, Anglo Indians, and Christians and all. And then in 1935, it was extended even further. So just remember the history. Many questions are asked based on it. Or it provides for the temporary reservation of seats for the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes to ensure adequate representation to them. So only reservation is provided to SCs and STs, and right now OBCs have also been provided the reservation, just so that they have equal representation on the in government field. However, communal representation, that is representation based on religion, is not provided in our country. It's based on caste, tribe, or backwardness, but not on religious basis. The next topic is universal adult franchise. This is also one of the fundamental concepts of our constitution. The Indian constitution adopts universal adult franchise as a basis of elections to the Lok Sabha and the state legislative assemblies. So what is universal adult franchise? Universal means which is applicable to general public or everyone. Adult means whoever is more than 18 years old, and franchise means right to vote. So all the people who are above 18 years old have the right to vote, and who should be a citizen of India. So they can vote in Lok Sabha elections as well as state legislative assemblies. You know that Rajya Sabha elections are indirect, whereas state legislative councils, MLCs, they are also chosen indirectly. Only the legislative assemblies and Lok Sabha elections are direct elections. So every citizen who is not less than 18 years of age has a right to vote without any discrimination of caste, race, religion, sex, illiteracy, wealth, and so on. Means there is no discrimination at all. It does not matter. Once you pass 18 years of age and you are a citizen of India, you have the right to vote. So this is one of the most important features of our constitution. The voting age was reduced to 18 years from 20 and 21 years in 1989 by the 61st Constitutional Amendment Act of 1988. So this particular amendment is also very important, because before that people above 21 years had the right to vote. After 1989, we have given the right of voting to all the people above 18 years of age. The introduction of universal adult franchise by the constitution makers was a bold experiment and highly remarkable in the view of the vast size of the country, its huge population, high poverty, social inequality, and overwhelming illiteracy. Why these things are given here? Because you know that once means in 1919, in Government of India Act 1919, when the Britishers gave voting rights to the Indians in direct elections, mostly the franchise was based on three things, that is a tax given by those particular people, their educational level, and their wealth level. So it was a very limited franchise. Only 10% of the eligible people were allowed to vote. However, in our independent India, it does not matter what is your literacy level or what is how much wealth you have a right to vote once you cross 18 years of age. So universal adult franchise makes democracy broad based. The base becomes very broad because so many people have voting rights, enhances the self respect and prestige of the common people, upholds the principle of equality, enables minorities to protect their interests, and opens up new hopes and vistas for the weaker sections. So here you can also link these particular things to the different features which are given in our constitution, that enhances self-respect and prestige. So this is also one of the duties, as well as it is given in our preamble also, that the dignity of self should be respected. Even the right to life, that is article 21, also talks about prestige of common people. So all these things are enhanced by universal adult franchise. So this is how you can link also different articles with different features of our constitution. Then right to equality, that is also one of the fundamental rights. Then single citizenship, you just studied that this is a unitary feature. So though the Indian constitution is federal means it is having both center and states, and envisages a dual polity, that is center and states. It provides only a single citizenship, that is the Indian citizenship. So what is the position in other countries? In countries like USA, on the other hand, each person is not only a citizen of USA but also a citizen of the particular state to which he belongs. So there is a dual citizenship. That citizen is citizen of that particular state as well as USA. Thus, he owes allegiance to both and enjoys dual sets of rights, one conferred by the national government and another by the state government. In India, all citizens, irrespective of the state in which they are born or reside, enjoy the same political and civil rights of citizenship all over the country. What are the political and civil rights? Basically, the fundamental rights are the political and civil rights. And no discrimination is made between them excepting in few cases like tribal areas, Jammu and Kashmir, and so on. So these are some of the exceptions, the tribal areas, because they need special provisions for the protection of the native people living in this particular area, because they are very backward. And then Jammu and Kashmir, it was taken inside India through a special instrument of accession, in which it was given to Kashmir that they can have their own constitution as well as their own separate means as per article 377 they have been given special rights. So that's why there are special provision with respect to Jammu and Kashmir. But other than these two areas, tribal areas and Jammu and Kashmir, everywhere all the citizens enjoy same political and civil rights. So let's say, for example, what are these political and civil rights? They have also been given in whole of the constitution. There are so many rights, like the right to have marriage in any part of the country, the right to have trade, occupation, all those things. So there are so many articles regarding these. You will study them later. Despite the constitutional provision for a single citizenship and uniform rights for all the people, India has been witnessing the communal riots, class conflicts. Communal rights are on rise a lot these days. Class conflicts means the conflict between rich and poor. Caste wars, we have recently seen so many conflicts between the lower castes as well as the upper caste. We should not call them lower caste because they are just separate caste, separate community. So there are clashes happening between different communities, linguistic clashes and ethnic disputes. This means that the cherished goal of the constitution makers to build an united and integrated Indian nation has not been fully realized. So so many provisions are there, but we are not able to implement them. Then 14th, independent bodies. So this is also one of the basic features. The Indian Constitution not only provides for the legislative, executive and judicial organs of the government, center and state, but also establish certain independent bodies. So these independent bodies are very important for the proper functioning of these legislative, executive and judicial organs. They are envisaged by the government, by the Constitution as the bulwarks of the democratic system of the government of India. These are: first, Election Commission. So this is one of the important independent body. So it ensures free and fair elections to the Parliament, the state legislatures, and the office of the President of India and the office of the Vice President of India. So over and over, Election Commission of India, it only takes care of the elections of the Parliament and state legislature and President and Vice President. It does not take care of the elections of local level elections like these panchayat election or these municipality elections that are done by State Election Commission. Whereas this Central Election Commission, it takes care of these 4 elections. Then Comptroller and Auditor General of India, CAG. So he is also called Protector of the Public Purse. So he has the responsibility to audit the accounts of the central and state governments. He acts as the guardian of public purse. So this is one of the keywords which you can use in your answer, that he is the guardian of the public purse, and comments on the legality and propriety of government expenditure. So there are 2 terms given here: legality. So in audit means basically the checking of the accounts. 2 things are checked: legality and propriety. What is legality? Whether the expenditure which is done, whether it was legally sanctioned, whether the permission was taken from the Parliament to spend that that particular money, that is called legal aspect. And propriety, whether the money which has been spent, it has been used properly or not, whether they can also go into the policy matters and check whether the policy was formulated in right way or not. So now the CAG powers have improved a lot. Like in 2G scam, they questioned the policy of first come and first serve, and thus they declared a huge loss to the exchequer. So this is how you can see the important role that CAG plays. Then third is Union Public Service Commission. You all of us know what is UPSC. We all are preparing for, I have already cleared, and you guys are preparing for UPSC. So it conducts examinations for recruitment to all India services and higher central services, and to advise the president on the disciplinary matters. So basically, these are the functions that recruitment is done by the UPSC, and all India services. There are basically three services: forest service, administrative service, and police service. And higher central services, basically class 1 services of central government, all these IRS, IFS, audit and account, and so many. There are almost 20 services of central government. And second important aspect of UPSC is also to advise the president on disciplinary matters of these particular officers. So if the officers that are taken up by the UPSC, if they do something wrong in their career, then the report or the inquiry is done by the UPSC, and it advises president to take appropriate action. Then D, State Public Service Commission. So they conduct the state level examinations for recruitment to state services and to advise the governor on disciplinary matters. So same two things, recruitment as well as checking if any aberration happened during the career of the bureaucrat. The Constitution ensures the independence of these bodies through various provisions like the security of tenure, fixed service condition, expenses being charged on the Consolidated Fund of India, and so on. So we have seen the same thing, same provisions with regard to Supreme Court of India also. So same provisions have been given for these particular bodies also, so that they can work independently without pressure. And 15, emergency provisions. The Indian Constitution contains elaborate emergency provisions to enable the president to meet any extraordinary situation effectively. The rationality behind the incorporation of these provisions is to safeguard the sovereignty, unity, integrity, and security of the country, the democratic political system, and the Constitution. So basically, these emergency provisions are incorporated to safeguard three things. First, the unity, sovereignty, and integrity, all basically the security of the country. That is the first part. Second is the democratic political system. So democracy is also protected by the emergency. Means in emergency provisions, basically the democracy is taken back. So we give up our democratic political system for a certain period of time in order to save the democracy itself. So that is a sort of paradox here, but that is actually useful. And the Constitution. So Constitution, if we are not able to protect our Constitution itself, then all the things will be lost. So these three things are protected. The Constitution envisages three types of emergencies. We just talked about it earlier. That first is national emergency on the ground of war or external aggression or armed rebellion. So this is Article 352. A certain amendment was done, so we will see that later. Then second is state emergency, president rule. So state emergency is also called president's rule because the governance of state directly comes under the hand of the president. So it can happen only on the ground of failure of constitutional machinery of in the states, that is Article 356, or failure to comply with the directions of the center, Article 365. So if center gives any direction and states do not comply, then also this president's rule can be imposed. Or else if the constitutional machinery fails in the state itself, if they are not the state is not ruling according to Constitution of India, then also this emergency can be imposed. If this particular emergency is imposed, the state legislative assembly dissolves, and the government directly comes under the president. Then third is financial emergency on the ground of threat to the financial stability or the credit of India. So this is also very important. Although it has never been implemented, this financial emergency, but this has been given under Article 360. So during an emergency, the central government becomes all powerful and the states go into total control of the center. Uh, Again, why there are emergency provisions? To protect the sovereignty, unity, and integrity and security of the country, the democratic political system, and the constitution. Just remember this. So center becomes all powerful and it takes all the control. It converts the federal structure into a unitary one without a formal amendment of the constitution. This kind of transformation of political system from federal during normal times to unitary during emergency times is a unique feature of the Indian constitution. Then next is three-tier government. So originally the Indian constitution, like any other federal constitution, provided for a dual polity and contained provisions with regard to the organization and powers of the center and state. So initially only this the powers were divided between the center and the states only, but now we have three-tier government. There is a central government, then there are state level government, and there are panchayati raj or municipalities and the panchayats at the local level. So this has also been given, this third tier has also been given the constitutional recognition via 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Acts. So the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Acts, they were passed in 1992. They have added a third tier of government, that is local, which is not found in any other constitution of the world. So this is very unique to India. The 73rd Constitution Amendment Act of 1992 gave constitutional recognition to the panchayats, rural local governments, by adding a new part 9 and a new schedule 11 to the constitution. So this schedule 11 is for this local rural government or the panchayats, and schedule 12 is for municipalities. And just remember the amendments also, 73rd and 74th. Similarly, the 74th Amendment Act of 1992 gave constitutional recognition to the municipalities, that is urban local governments, by adding a new part 9A and a new schedule 12. So just remember this part 9 and part 9A, schedule 11 and 12, and what are they for, and also the name of the amendments. So giving a constitutional authority as well as constitutional recognition has been one of the most drastic changes. Earlier also the panchayats were present, but they were not having the constitutional status. Now nobody can just say that there should be not any panchayat in our state, because they are now constitutional bodies. Now this they have given this this particular table, they have given the Constitution of India at a glance. So let's just go through this and Article 1 to 4, it covers it is covered in part 1, that is the union and its territory. We should basically mug it up all those things, because so many questions are asked based on these particular things in your prelims. Then part 2 contains the citizenship, that is from Article 5 to 11. Then fundamental rights are covered in part 3 from 12 to 35. Part 4 contains directive principles of state policy from 36 to 51. Just remember the starting and ending article also. And you should remember the contents of different articles also. Basically these fundamental rights and directive principles, you have to mug up each and every article. Then part 4A, fundamental duties. There is a lot of confusion between part 4 and part 4A, so don't be confused. It is the fundamental duties are contained in 51A. There are 11 of them. Then part 5 is union government, and in this particular union government from 52 to 151 it is. So this particular part 5 is divided into these 5 chapters: the executive, parliament, legislative powers of the president, union judiciary, and comptroller and auditor general of India. So CAG is covered in article 148 to 151. Union judiciary from 124 to 147, basically they are talking about Supreme Court. Legislative powers of the president, basically ordinance making power, it is covered in article 123. Parliament and its provisions are covered from 79 to 122. And executive, that is the president and the prime minister, and the Council of Ministers, and how they are formulated and all those, that is covered from 52 to 78. Then sixth part is the state governments. Again, this particular sixth part is divided into these particular 6 chapters, and it is from Article 152 to 237. So from 52 to 151 it's union government, and from 152, after the completion of 151, from 152 to 237 it's state governments. So here so many chapters are there. The general provisions are there in Article 152. Then executive, the executive, that is state government and the governors, and related provisions from 153 to 167. The state legislature means basically the legislative body, how it will make the laws and how it will pass the budget, and so many things are there. It is from 168 to 212. Then the legislative powers of the governor, it is given in Article 213. So this particular legislative power is also ordinance making power. It's same as Article 123. So the president can make ordinances by using this Article 123, whereas the state governors can make ordinance, means they can promulgate ordinances by using Article 213 of the Constitution of India. Then provisions relating to the high courts are given from 214 to 232. As well as you can see that union judiciary, that is Supreme Court, was from 124 to 147. Then the subordinate courts, they have also been mentioned in the Constitution. They are from 233 to 237. As well as here this particular part 7 has been deleted. These were the states in part B of the first schedule. They were there when our country became independent, so the different states were divided into different schedules and part. So that is deleted because now that particular division has been abolished. Then the next part is part 8, that is the union territories. So it has been covered from Article 239 to 242. You know that there are this Article 239, it mostly covers Delhi and the provisions related to it. So even there was a tussle between the rights of Chief Minister of Delhi as well as the governor. So you can quote these particular provisions when you write that particular answer. Then part 9 is the Panchayat from 243 to 243O. So and part 9A, we just studied this, that part 9 and part 9A are about the Panchayat and the municipalities. So municipalities are covered in the same 243P to 243ZG. So basically Article 243 and its subparts, they cover these panchayats and municipalities. Then part 9B is the cooperative societies. So it also is covered in under Article 243 itself. Then part 10 is the scheduled and the tribal areas. These particular areas are covered in Article 244. Then part 11 is the relations between the union and the states. Here most of the provisions which are given, that you can write in your answer in the cooperative federalism and all those things. So that is covered from 245 to 263. So first is that is divided into 2 chapters. One is legislative relations. So basically how the law making power is differentiated, and on which topics the center can make law, on which the states can make law, and how they can cooperate among each other. And the second is administrative relations, that how to govern the country and how they can cooperate in those particular arenas. So many forums are given, so many provisions are given where the center can formulate the laws for the states. So when you will study in detail, you will know these articles are very important. Then part 12 is the finance, property, contracts and suits. So this is what I was talking about, the civil rights that all the citizens enjoy in each and every part of the country. That is also part of right to equality. So chapter 1 is finance, 264 to 291. Here basically how the finances of the government, the taxation rights, who will cover, who will collect which particular tax, how it will be distributed among different tiers of the government. There are 3 tiers. So that all is covered in this particular chapter, finance. Then borrowing, how basically how to loan money or who can take money from whom. This is given in this. And chapter 3, property, contracts, rights, liabilities, obligations, and suits. So this is one of the most important rights. 294 to 300 it covers, and it basically relates to the civil rights of the people. And chapter 4 is right to property, 300A. So earlier this right to property was a fundamental right, but it was abolished as a fundamental right by 44th Amendment Act, and then it was made a normal constitutional right. So it's not a fundamental right now, it is a constitutional right. It is also not a legal right, it is a constitutional right. So there are basically three tiers. That first comes your legal right, which you get via any statute or any law, then the constitutional right, and then fundamental rights. So fundamental rights are the supreme. Then part 13, it covers the trade, commerce, and intercourse within the territory of India. So again, all these things are guaranteed to each and every citizen, except by authority of law and in special cases like tribal areas and Jammu and Kashmir. So this is covered from 301 to 307. Then the chapter 14, services under the union and the state. So it is covered from 308 to 323. So first is services, so 308 to 314. So all the service conditions and all the class A services and what are their rights that are covered in this. Chapter 2 is Public Service Commission, 315 to 323. So basically here how the recruitment will happen, and how the disciplinary action will be taken, and what are the rights and duties of these public service commissions. They are given in these particular articles. Then Article 14A talks about tribunals, which is covered in Article 323B. Then Part 15 covers elections. So all provisions are covered in 324 to 329. Then chapter 16 is special provisions relating to certain classes. This is covered from 330 to 342. So this is also very important, because here most of the rights of scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, as well as the backward castes, and the provisions related to the upliftment of these particular classes are provided from 330 to 342. Then part 17 talks about the official language. So official language has been covered from 343 to 351, in which there are 4 chapters. First is the language of the union, 343 to 344. Regional languages, 345 to 347. Language of the Supreme Court, High Court, and so on. So let's say, for example, the Supreme Court only works in English language, so that is given in these particular articles, 348 and 349. And special directives, 350 to 350, and basically this is like for promotion of Hindi and promotion of regional language and all those things. There will be a special officer. So the lingual provisions are from 343 to 351. Then next part is part 18, emergency provisions. They are covered from 352 to 360. Then miscellaneous provisions are covered from 361 to 367. And some amendment of the Constitution under Article 368. Then temporary, transitional, and special provisions are there in 369 to 392. And short titles, commencement, authoritative text in Hindi, and repeals. All this is covered in 393 to 395. Here some note is given that part 7 dealing with why it was deleted. It was deleted by the 7th Amendment Act of 1956, and so many parts were added also, like part 4A, part 14A. They were added by 42nd Amendment Act 1976, while part 9A and 9B were added by 74th and 97th Amendment Act. So this data is very important, and you should know what these amendments represented and what these parts pertain to. So this table you should mug it up by heart. You should know which particular article talks about which particular part and what that particular part contains. So this table is very, 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 very important. Then they have given important articles of the Constitution at a glance. So many articles are given. We are not going to cover it. You can read it by yourself. because anyway we are going to cover all these articles in our subsequent lectures in very great detail, so there is no need for that. And there are 12 schedules of the constitution. You should remember what is the name of different schedule and what it covers. So all the different schedules and what it covers, you should mug it up and remember it. So we are not going to cover it also. And sources of the constitution at a glance, we have already discussed so many sources, and from which particular source what has been taken, it is given in this particular table. Just go through it. Then after that we have cooperative societies. So cooperative society, it was inserted by 97th Constitutional Amendment Act of 2011, and it gave constitutional status and protection to the cooperative societies, same like 73rd and 74th, which gave constitutional status to your local governments. So in this context, it made the following 3 changes in the constitution. What are those 3 changes? First, it made the right to form cooperative societies a fundamental right under Article 19. That is, Article 19 comes under right to freedom, so you should mug it up and remember it. Then it included a new directive principle of state policy on promotion of cooperative societies under Article 43B. So just remember this also, that it's a directive to the state to promote cooperative society. And then it added a new part 9B in the constitution, which is entitled as the Cooperative Societies, Article 243 ZS to ZT. So you know that this part 9 is for the local panchayat, part 9A is for municipalities, and the 9B is for cooperative societies. So just remember this. So the new part 9B contains various provisions to ensure that the cooperative societies in the country function in a democratic, professional, autonomous and economically sound manner. So these are the dictates, that they should be democratic, it should be professional, that is managed by a competent board. Then it should be autonomous, that is the state and the central government should not be able to interfere in their working, and it should be run in economically sound manner. So it empowers the parliament in respect of multi-state cooperative societies and the state legislatures in respect of the other cooperative societies to make the appropriate law. So naturally the parliament has made laws for the multi-state cooperative societies, whereas the different states have made different laws for the cooperative societies that are running in their own states. So many criticisms are done of the constitution. I will just tell you the gist of all these, that it is a borrowed constitution. It has been taken from so many different sources, but it is not a good criticism, because like our B.R. Ambedkar told that we have not just borrowed, we have amended it to suit our own conditions. So it's not like we have just borrowed it blindly. Then a carbon copy of 1935 Act, that is also not true, because so many changes were made. Although so many provisions were taken from 1935 Act, because anyway we implemented this particular act at the provincial levels, but still it's not like a carbon copy. Then un-Indian or anti-Indian, that is also not true, because just because we borrowed, that does not mean that it is not an Indian version. Then an Gandhian constitution, that is also not true. So many Gandhian provisions are incorporated in our DPSPs. And then elephantine size, that is true actually. We have a very bulky constitution, but then that was done so that so many communities are empowered. Our country is a multilingual, multicultural country. That's why we needed that particular big constitution. And paradise of the lawyers. So basically the language is very difficult to understand and to read, but then that was the case because the constitution, if it's not if it has so many loopholes, it will lead to so many litigations. So it's good that it's very well framed. Then there are so many notes and references. You can go through all these notes and references one by one. Actually, these notes and references contain so many important informations which are asked in your prelims. So let me see if any important note is there. Uh, this Keshwanand Bharati case, you know, that is fought in 1973. The schedules are given, we just studied them. Then American Constitution contains only 7 articles, Australian 128, Chinese 138, and Canadian 147. So this American Constitution initially contained only 7 articles. Now the articles have increased almost to 23 or 24, I don't remember. But still that is very less compared to our Constitution, which has so many articles. So you can see that our Constitution is actually bulky if we compare it with other countries' Constitution. Then Jammu Kashmir has its own constitution by the virtue of Article 370. I just quoted Article 377, that is wrong. It is Article 370 actually. Then 240 provisions of the 1935 Act have been directly copied. So we know that that is the biggest source of our constitution. Then Westminster is the place where the British Parliament is located. Here this article, this also we have discussed that right to property was Article 31 and it was a fundamental right, but it was deleted from the list of the fundamental right by the 44th Amendment Act of 1978, and then it was made a constitutional right under Article 300A. Then mineral mills case is also very important. And then we discussed this also that 1909 the communal representation is started, then it increased in 1919 and 1935 acts. And also we have universal adult franchise, but even in Western countries the right to vote was not extended to all sections of the society. For example, even in USA the right to vote to women was given in 1920, and in Britain it was given in 1928. Russia gave the same voting rights in 1936 to women. Even France and Italy did not give it until 1945 and 1948. And Switzerland, women were not voting till 1971. So you can see that even the Western countries have so many flaws in their constitutional laws, and they have also slowly recovered. However, when we became independent, we immediately gave universal adult franchise to all the people of our country. Then there are 3 all India services we just discussed: IAS, IPS, and IFS, Indian Forest Service. And in 1947, the ICS, earlier this IAS was called ICS, Indian Civil Services. So it was replaced by IAS, and Indian Police, IP, was replaced by IPS. In this IFS was constituted in 1963. So the central government with the concurrence of states can formulate new all India services, but then this is the last service that was created. And the 44th Amendment Act of 1978 replaced the original term internal disturbance by new term armed rebellion. So basically the emergency of 1975 was proclaimed on the basis of internal disturbance by the Indira Gandhi government, but then by 44th Amendment Act the text was changed, and now only on the basis of armed rebellion the national emergency can be proclaimed. Now part 9 of the constitution provides for a 3-tier system of panchayati raj in every state, that is panchayats at the village, intermediate and district levels. So this has been incorporated in the constitution itself. Then part 9A in the constitution provides for the 3 types of municipalities in every state, that is Nagar Panchayat for a transitional area, municipal council for a smaller urban area, and municipal corporation for a larger urban area. So what are the features of these particular 3 types of Nagar Panchayat, municipal council, and corporation, that you will study later. Through the last this is not important, and all these things are not important. So that's it. This chapter is completed. Thank you so much, and I will see you in next video for chapter 4. Thank you.